She finally escaped, then realized she didn't know who she was anymore. Emily's journal at 23. Hey, it's Emily, and I need to ask you something. What happens when you spend years fighting to escape something and then you finally do? When the battle that defined you suddenly ends? Everyone talks about the struggle, the breaking point, the dramatic moment when you finally leave, finally quit, finally stand up for yourself. But nobody talks about what comes after. The quiet, disorienting phase where you realize the fight gave you purpose, and now that it's over, you have no idea who you are without it. This is my friend Nia's story, about the girl who escaped everything she was running from and then had to figure out what she was running toward. Because sometimes the hardest part of resilience isn't surviving the storm, it's learning how to live in the sunshine. I met Nia in September 2022 at a coffee shop in Seattle. She'd just moved there from Atlanta 3 weeks earlier. New city, new job, new everything. She was 26, working as a marketing coordinator at a tech startup. On paper, she was winning. She'd left a toxic relationship with her ex-boyfriend Tyler back in Atlanta. Left a soul-crushing corporate job where she'd been passed over for promotion 3 times. Left her family home where her mother had spent years undermining every decision she made. Nia had done the hard thing. She'd escaped. I should feel free, she told me over coffee that first day we met. Everyone keeps telling me how brave I am, how proud they are, but I just feel empty. She couldn't articulate it better than that. Empty. For the past 3 years, Nia's entire life had been defined by struggle. Fighting with Tyler about his controlling behavior. Fighting at work to prove she deserved that promotion. Fighting with her mother about her life choices. Every day was a battle. Every conversation was defensive. Every decision was about survival. And then, in the span of 6 weeks in summer 2022, it all ended. She broke up with Tyler after he went through her phone for the 100th time, and she finally realized she was done justifying her existence to someone who would never trust her. She quit her job after her boss gave the promotion she'd earned to his friend's son who'd been there for 6 months. She packed her apartment, told her mother she was moving to Seattle, and left Atlanta with 2 suitcases and a one-way ticket. Everyone celebrated her. You're so strong. You finally did it. This is your glow-up era. Nia smiled, nodded, posted the right Instagram photos, said the right things. But inside, she felt like she was floating, untethered, like she'd been running at full speed for years and suddenly there was nothing to run from anymore. So she just stopped and stood there, confused. She'd spent so long being the girl who was fighting, the girl who was struggling, the girl who was surviving, that she'd never developed an identity beyond that. Who was Nia when she wasn't defending herself? When she wasn't proving something? When she wasn't in crisis mode? She had no idea. The first few months in Seattle should have been her victory lap. Instead, they were the hardest months of her life. Not because anything bad was happening. That was the problem. Nothing bad was happening, and Nia didn't know how to function in peace. At work, her new boss was kind, supportive, gave her autonomy, praised her work. And Nia kept waiting for the catch, kept over-preparing for meetings, kept working late to prove herself, kept bracing for criticism that never came. You can relax, her boss told her one day. You're doing great. You don't have to work this hard. But Nia didn't know how to work any other way. Struggle mode was her default. Rest felt like failure. In her personal life, she went on a few dates, met a guy named Jordan through friends. He was nice, respectful, communicated clearly, didn't play games. And Nia panicked. She kept analyzing his words for hidden meanings, kept testing him to see if he'd show his real self, kept creating problems where none existed because she didn't know how to exist in a relationship without conflict. Jordan eventually stopped calling. I like you, he said, but it feels like you're fighting me when I'm trying to be on your team. He was right. Nia had spent 3 years in battle mode with Tyler. She'd learned to anticipate attacks, to defend herself constantly, to never fully trust. And now, that was the only way she knew how to connect. But the worst part? The loneliness. In Atlanta, Nia had built her entire social network around her struggle. Her friends were the people who'd listened to her vent about Tyler, who'd supported her through work drama, who'd validated her complaints about her mother. Now that she was thriving, those relationships didn't translate. She'd call old friends and realize she had nothing to talk about. Her life was stable, boring. There was no drama to debrief, no crisis to analyze. "How are things?" her best friend from Atlanta would ask. "Good," Nia would say. "Work's good. The city's nice. I'm good." Silence. What else was there to say? Nia realized with horror that her identity had been built on struggle. She was the girl with the toxic boyfriend, the girl who deserved better at work, the girl standing up to her family. Without those struggles, who was she? She found herself almost missing the chaos, not because she wanted to go back, but because at least in crisis, she knew who she was. She knew her role. She knew how to perform. The breaking point came in February 2023, 5 months after moving to Seattle. Nia was sitting in her apartment on a Saturday afternoon. No plans, no drama, no problems to solve. Just quiet. And she started crying. Not sad crying, frustrated crying. "What is wrong with me?" she thought. "I have everything I wanted. Why do I feel like I'm failing?" That's when it hit her. The realization that changed everything. She'd been measuring her life by struggle metrics. How hard she was fighting, how much she was enduring, how strong she was being. But there are no metrics for peace. No scorecard for stability. No applause for quiet growth. Society celebrates the dramatic transformation. The "I left my toxic ex" post. The "I quit my terrible job" announcement. The before and after photos. But nobody celebrates Tuesday afternoon when you're just existing. Building a life slowly, making small, unsexy choices that don't make good stories. Nia realized she needed to redefine what winning looked like. Not just surviving, thriving, but what did thriving even mean? She started small, stopped treating peace like a waiting room for the next crisis, started viewing rest as productive, started measuring success by consistency instead of intensity. She joined a running group, not because she was running from something, just because she liked running. She started taking pottery classes on Thursdays, not to prove anything, just because working with clay made her hands busy and her mind quiet. She made new friends, people who'd never known struggle Nia, people who only knew her as she was now. And with them, she practiced being a person instead of a survivor. It took Nia another year to fully understand what she was building. By spring 2024, she'd been in Seattle almost 2 years, and she'd finally stopped waiting for the other shoe to drop. Work was still good. She got promoted not because she fought for it, but because she consistently did excellent work and her boss noticed. She started dating someone new, a woman named Sierra she'd met at pottery class. The relationship was calm, supportive, boring in the best way. No drama, no tests, just 2 people choosing each other daily. And most importantly, Nia had rebuilt her sense of self. She wasn't the girl who escaped. She was just Nia, who liked running and pottery and awful reality TV, who was good at her job but didn't let it consume her, who had messy days and calm days and was learning that both were okay. But here's what nobody tells you about growth. It's continuous. There's no finish line. Nia still had hard days, days when she defaulted to crisis mode, days when peace felt uncomfortable, days when she missed the adrenaline of constant struggle because at least it felt like living intensely. But she'd learned to sit with that discomfort, to recognize it as old programming, not current reality. She'd learned that healing isn't linear. That growth doesn't mean you never struggle again. It means you develop better tools for when you do. If you're watching this and you've recently escaped something, a relationship, a job, a situation, a version of yourself, I need you to hear what Nia learned. The struggle doesn't define you, but neither does the escape. You are defined by what you build after, the quiet, unglamorous work of figuring out who you are in peace. And that work is harder than anyone admits, because there's no roadmap, no viral moment, no celebration for choosing calm over chaos. You'll have days where you miss the intensity of the fight, where stability feels like stagnation, where you wonder if you're still the strong person everyone praised when you were surviving. You are, but strength looks different now. It looks like rest, like boundaries, like choosing consistency over intensity, like building a life so quietly fulfilling that nobody else understands why it matters. The world celebrates the escape, but the real revolution? That happens in the unwritten chapters, the months and years after the dramatic exit. When you're learning to exist without a fight, that's Nia's story. She's still writing it, still figuring it out, still learning to be a person instead of a survivor. And that's the most resilient thing she's ever done. Thanks for being here. If this resonated, subscribe to Emily's Journal at 23. Tell me about your unwritten chapters in the comments. And remember, your healing doesn't end when the struggle does. That's just where the real work begins. I'll see you in the next entry.